It's a pleasure to be here as part of this. I really am grateful to Claudia for putting this all together. We were talking about what exactly We Are Human Foundation is and what this effort is, but it's very proud to be a part of it, as all of us are. I also want to thank Laura's in the back, but from Southwest Airlines, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her getting me here, like she does with our organization all over the country. So I'm not going to go over statistics. I think in my original notes, there were a lot of statistics about the Latino community. When Mark Lopez and Stacy and Nina and others do that, it's like dunking in front of Michael Jordan. You ain't going to impress anybody, and you'll probably make a fool of yourself. So I'm going to go with, and I mean Michael Jordan at 55 years old, too. So I'm just going to go with some statistics that I think are important. But the numbers are impressive, but they're just numbers. If there's not a plan around it, if it's not sustainable, if it isn't action behind it. So we can talk about all the numbers we want, and yes, that'll make people's eyes pop, but it won't make people respect us unless we're coordinated in what we're doing. And that's why we've assembled this panel, because we're trying to figure out what those steps are to make those numbers actionable and have an impact, not just on the Latino community, on the United States and in the globe. I also want to address earlier, just as a side note, that when they talk about leadership, I don't lead anything. I get led by my community. I just want to make that distinguishing statement there, because I think too many times we talk about ourselves being leaders, and the truth is that our community leads us, and that's why you get those numbers, and especially youth. I was once asked on a panel, what advice do you have for millennials? And a lot of others went around the room and talked about their advice to millennials. What I said was, I don't give advice to millennials, I get advice from millennials. And the truth is that that's the perspective we have to have. We have to, as employers, we need to adjust to millennials and Generation Next, and also need to adjust to the American workforce needs. So it's not necessarily them adjusting to us. I also want to talk that at a time when we are being vilified and attacked as immigrants and Latinos, I think the easiest way to demonstrate the value that we present, the value proposition that we present the United States, is through the workforce, working backwards from what our workforce needs are. And at a time that we have the tech industry trying to fill millions and millions of jobs that they can't fill, when you had at a time when you have low unemployment rates, and then also 10,000 baby boomers turning retirement age every single day, where is America to turn? And the truth is that we've always answered the call of America when it comes to our workforce, whether it was building bridges, taking care of children, fighting wars, picking the fruit, serving food, cleaning up. There's another transition that we have in terms of technology and healthcare and other needs that America has. And we can demonstrate that value very quickly, because it's the same basic tent poles that are within our community that allow us to become such a strong workforce and dependable workforce. I also just want to mention about youth. I have a 14-year-old daughter with access to technology, which is a computer and broadband. She's able to reach more people than Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, and Gandhi could in a lifetime combined. So our job is to make sure that that happens. We recently did a project with Adan, who's sitting on the corner, in the Puede Network in Oak Cliff, Dallas, where we taught 300 kids how to code. And it's an ongoing program called Code as a Second Language that we do through the work that he's doing. This is what we need to do. How do you empower them? So with that, and also 2/3 of the workforce growth in America will be filled by Latinos over the next 10 years. Again, America needs us, and as always, we come through for America. So I'm going to go into some of these questions, but first I want to introduce this panel, because I am definitely the weak link up here. So to my left is Dr. Joe May, who is the president of Dallas County Community College, which is such a critical educational PowerPoint for our community and all communities. Next to him is Jorge Corral, Dallas Office Managing Director of Accenture. Thank you for everything, representing us, again, in the public sector, private sector. We need that representation all over. Eric Reeves is Managing Director at High Steps Chair for Dallas, ISD, P-Tech. And next to him is Adan Gonzalez, who's the founder and executive director of the Puede Network. And I want to share a very quick anecdote. As we were walking through the campus to this site at SMU, he remarked to me that as a little boy, he actually cleaned these buildings. And he went home to tell his father that he had been on a college campus and was cleaning when he was a kid. And his dad, and he said, I want to go to college. And his dad's a janitor, and his dad said, no, that's for our bosses. They send their kids to college. So Adan ended up going to Georgetown. He ended up going to Harvard for grad school, and he ended up going to Columbia for grad school as well. Obviously, he couldn't get into the University of Maryland, so he got his backup schools. But I just wanted to share that with you, that we have somebody that has a very unique perspective in terms of being in this wonderful institution. So with that, let me start with my question. A really simple one. But difficult to answer sometimes. What does the future of the workforce look like in Dallas? What are those priorities for Dallas? What are those industries? What are those skills? And we'll start here and go that way. So.
Okay, sure. Well, and thank you, and thanks for allowing us to be a part of this. As the Chancellor of Dallas Community Colleges, we spend a lot of time thinking about the future of work, the workforce, what is needed, and I really think that we're at a really a pivotal time, both as a community and frankly as a country. We're here in North Texas in the #1 economy in the nation, and this has been right at the top for years. We've seen our population grow by 1 million people since over the last 8 years alone, and we went back and looked at what is going on in the economy and what's driving this influx of people into our community and what's happening to them along the way. So we looked at between 2017 and 2018, there were 132,000 jobs created in North Texas. Do the math on that. That's about 362 jobs a day that were created. At that same time, you do the math, and you'll figure out that about 395 people a day were moving in to take those jobs. So I say this, that it's not only important. These are, and then we looked at what those jobs were. 65% of those jobs required some education beyond high school. About 32% required a bachelor's degree or advanced degree or higher. 33% required a certification, industry-based certification, associate degree, something less than that. And yet, at all levels, we have jobs not being filled in our community because we simply don't have people with the credentials. So what's happened at the same time as we see these 395 people who will move here today into North Texas, they're actually increasing income disparity. Over the same period of time, we've seen phenomenal growth. We've also seen the median family income decline by about 15% during that, meaning that we're having some people take advantage and some people being left behind and get further behind than ever before. And for us, that's really what we spend a lot of time doing. How do we get more people into that educational pipeline so that they can take advantage of the jobs? Because the truth is you can't today. There are just limited opportunities, and every day there are fewer and fewer opportunities for individuals without knowledge, skills, and ability that they can relate to and then build up on throughout their life.
Great. Do you want to take a stab at that, Jorge?
You want me to follow that?
Yeah.
I'll just give you a connection point because I certainly would just pile on to that. I think, so last year we Accenture, and I think most of you know Accenture, maybe not, 480,000 people globally. We're the biggest consulting firm in the world. We have over 2,000 people here in Dallas or in DFW. And so we're one of our big focuses is helping the local community is not just an opportunity, it's a responsibility for us, so we're kind of all in on that. So we touch in different ways. Last year we partnered with Dallas Regional Chamber, United Way of Metropolitan Dallas, and SMU to conduct an innovation economic study. It's on the DRC website, Dallas Regional Chamber website if you're interested. But one of the big findings, just to pile on to what Dr. May said, was that the workforce is changing. So you heard about automation and other things. So put that to the side for a second. just in simple terms, the need for more STEM graduates is important. And if you look at what's going on in DFW, the need for just talent, there's a big gap right now in terms of, and so DFW has grown largely because it's a net importer of technology, creative, and other talents around innovation. And so we have this huge opportunity to really help the communities rise up and fill some of those roles. So that's what we're excited about, and that's what was one of the findings of our study.
Eric, can you also talk about the technology need here in Dallas as well, and across the country too? I think it's reflective of the entire country.
Yeah, it's been a privilege for me to follow three really great leaders in our area. Joe May is one of them, Dr. Hinojosa at Dallas ISD, and then Bob Mung at UNTD. These three gentlemen have come together with three different institutions and have created a collaborative, all geared towards helping students in Dallas County, get to the next step and to reduce the cost of college. This vision that they have put together is phenomenal. From my vantage point at the Dallas ISD, DCCD, UNTD, PTech initiative, watching the three institutions pick out and then focus their efforts on different strands of our economy, it has been fascinating. This is a very intentional effort. It is going to produce a great opportunity for the kids, certainly at Dallas ISD, but elsewhere. And I do hate to do statistics, but I would love to just leave you with one, is that in Dallas ISD, the incoming freshman class, roughly 10,000 students, 6,000 students, so 60% of the class and their parents applied for a position in the PTech program. There are only 3,000 seats, well, there were only 2,500 seats available. The team decided to expand it to 3,000, but still, that's pretty incredible when you think about, the leverage that number speaks to. So in 4 years, roughly 30% of the class at Dallas ISD will be in a PTech program, which is, supported with partners with Accenture and AT&T and others. It's very exciting. So I see that the future that we have, that we're building, is we've got a good foundation to move along.
And I just want to ask Adan to answer the next question, and we'll come back this way, just because I think it's more relevant to you. So I remember when you first got to Harvard and you called me and you said, all these other kids have these backgrounds that make me feel as though I'm in a position that they know more than I do. And very quickly, you told me you found out that you're the actual expert because they're trying to figure out how to reach your community, where you come from. And I think that gives you a perspective that's different than a lot of the work that's coming here, which is why you're on this panel. How does that view of these kind of macro efforts affect you when you're working directly with the students that they're trying to affect?
Buenos días. I think even just hearing the fine gentlemen speak, first of all, thank you for the hard work that you're putting into our community. I feel my heart jumping out because, I'm not shocked to hear any data points because I am that kid. Our parents believe in our education. We wouldn't be in this country, or they wouldn't have come to this country for better opportunities. America is great, and that's why we're here to take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of us. Now, what does that mean? To a quick story, make everything hopefully make sense. I do have ADHD, so I'll come full circle. Is that Mr. Reeves was talking about that when he heard me speak a couple years ago, it was at the Flight Museum, and 5 years ago, and I hadn't graduated from Georgetown yet, and I told him literally my dad had polished the floors before I spoke that night. And that is the reality of coming here to clean. Our community, one of our strengths is we know how to clean. And that being said, Growing up, my dad also cleaned the planes. And the story that's going to be short is that I remember going to the grocery store and not being able to buy a Hershey bar or a Pepsi because my parents only had enough to make buy. And with time, my dad would always bring things from work that he would, and like all type of weird things, snacks, cookies, but we didn't have the Oreo, Chips Ahoy. And through time, when I was at Georgetown, I went to England to fight for the national team, and I flew first class, and I was the most excited about snacks. And when the flight attendant came through, they had a basket of snacks, and I almost started crying because all the snacks that were in that basket were the same snacks my dad was bringing from home from work. And I think when I think about Dallas and I think about our community, I think about the basket. The talent has always been here. We have always been skillful. We always have the power and the strength. We just lack the opportunity and the connection. And even when the connection to the opportunity is made, we lack the preparation because we believe the system. And the system, for far too long, people have said that the system is broken. The system is not broken. The system was working exactly the way it was built to. And now as a person that's here, how does that make sense to me? Why the network's a network? Think about this, and just in this room, you have Claudia that met me when I was 18, who gave me my first radio interview, that gave me a voice in the community, and then the people in the hood heard me that I was in the radio. They thought I was already a lawyer. They thought I had money, because that's the level of understanding that you're in the radio, you must be really important. Then you turn around, I'm in DC, I arrived in DC with my clothes in trash bags. Tony made sure I never missed a meal. Then from there, now that I'm doing my groundwork, my grassroots weather network work, you have PepsiCo Rebecca, who's written grants for my kids to be able to have uniforms. It's a network. And the strength within the workforce, how are we going to take advantage of all these opportunities? We need to invest in being irrelevant. Us as leaders, we need to be aiming at being irrelevant in the sense of empowering people to empower each other. We're constantly depending on a system, on a title, on an organization to make the opportunities. But when we start investing in people, they're going to make them for themselves. We've always survived. We were colonized and we made it. And we're going to continue to make it. So thank you.
Yeah, great. It's clear that there's talent in Dallas. So as Adan was saying, what are those challenges to connecting that talent, or what do we need to do better in connecting that talent to the opportunities? Because you have someone like Adan, if he hadn't had a few breaks go his way, or if he didn't create his own breaks, it would be a very different situation than he's in right now. So how do we address that, connecting? Yeah, you start, Dr. May.
A great question. Let me maybe describe some of the challenges and that we face. And part of it is just how we talk about particularly college, higher education, additional training, whatever the need may be. You know, we're at a great institution here. One of our great partners is SMU and the other university partners. But the way we talk about higher education and the way, frankly, many of these institutions market themselves is about brand and it's about lifestyle. Lifestyle when you're in college, lifestyle when you get out. It sounds expensive, and it is. And it causes a lot of people to believe that college is unaffordable, unattainable. And so we spend a lot of time looking at how we can break down those barriers, and we need your help to do that. You know, I was, Eric Rees and I happened to be in an event about a year and a half ago when a young man, Jose Alvarez, was there at the meeting telling his story. He was senior class president at Grand Prairie High, top of the class at Grand Prairie, but wasn't going to college. And the reason he wasn't going is because his parents had told him all their lives, we can't afford to send you to college, because they believed brand and lifestyle were too expensive for them to afford. Now, he went on to say, you may think I would know that I could come to one of the 7 Dallas County community colleges and attend free because of the low tuition and the Pell Grant. He said, but I didn't know that. And neither did any of my friends know that until we began to tell the story through the Dallas County Promise and make it clear that that opportunity was available. But I believe that, and so and it works. If we can get young people to hear that story, our enrollment increased by 35% year over year from the 31 partner high schools that we worked with. And these aren't students that were going somewhere else. They were members of your communities, and they weren't going anywhere at all. And that's really the barrier. We're not competing against other institutions. We're competing against not going to college and not taking part in that education. So as we look at it, it really does take a continual voice of talking about the opportunity, helping bridge those gaps, because when you've heard that same message all your life, who are you going to believe, me or your mother? And that's where we have to start with that story.
Great. Jorge, what are your thoughts, especially as you work in the community and see this, the talent that's there, and how do you connect it to opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say on a personal level, it's a tough one. Honestly, for me, I get a little emotional when Alan talks about it. My dad was a plumbing contractor. I'm a first-generation Mexican-American. My parents are from Durango, Mexico. My sister is a role model for me. She went to UCLA. She made it. So I hit on a couple topics to bring it to life in my life. Like just knowing somebody can go to university. That was my sister. First in many, many cousins that I have to go to a four-year university. She went to UCLA. She went to Hastings Law School eventually. But just that simple thing of just seeing somebody out there that makes it seem possible is a huge step, you know. So with Accenture, I get the privilege really of trying to find different ways to connect and help in different ways throughout, whether it's primary education or in college or recruiting or even retention. Once people are at Accenture, we touch the different as a solution in different ways. Right. And we don't do it alone. We partner with D333CD. We partner with P-Tech. We partner with a lot of different community partners. And I think we have 12 organizations we work with to address the different challenges in different ways. So there's role modeling, there's access to education, there's health. There's many, many levers we need to pull. That's what I think of.
Thank you for that, Eric.
One of the most crazy maps that I see is one that Joe May puts up, and we were looking at it earlier, but it's kind of the path from K-12 to employment and all the different things that have to happen around that student to get from point A to point B. I mean, for instance, something none of us thought of with P-Tech was, okay, we got these kids, they're going to be juniors in high school, and they're going to go to college on a college campus, but they were used to getting free and reduced lunch on the ISD campus, but that wasn't there on the college campus. So, those are things that we kind of take for granted, but, the kids weren't taking it for granted. That was pretty important. So I think a lot about what those challenges are. And we were talking about this earlier. It is, when a lot of institutions or organizations or just people all come together and work on what they do well and lift people up, then we're creating an avenue for people to improve themselves. There are challenges around, kind of college going culture, those kinds of things. And I think that as we start to see more stories like Adon's and, the numbers that we're seeing at Dallas ISD, applying for these programs, so I find myself being very hopeful in the face of statistics that are kind of discouraging. My wife looks at me and says, "Why are you so excited?" I said, "I think there's something really cool happening in Dallas right now. I feel like we're in the right place at the right time, and all of us, whether we're business people or whatnot, have a opportunity to help lift, and it's the easy button now. It's not hard. It's actually happening. So we just need to encourage all of our networks to get more involved."
Go ahead, Alan.
Even the value in the human capital of the demographics that we're serving, and acknowledging the reality of, I was talking earlier about when higher education institutions inherit.
It's fine, just talk.
Right.
It's fine.
When higher education institutions inherit the student's background, the student's circumstances. And one of the biggest challenges, right now I'm actually doing my administrative internship at Garza, one of the first early high school colleges. And, you know, yeah, all the work that you guys are putting in, it's valuable, it's important, and it's needed. And the Alan that puts myself in their shoes, obviously want more. In the sense that the support system for my kids. I asked them this morning, they were supposed to actually come here today, but the bus didn't pick them up. Is that students are arriving at community college, you know, unprepared. They're taking remedial classes that they stay stuck for 2 to 3 years, or you guys know the data on that, before they even take classes that actually count towards their associates. And the access to the opportunities are important, but even meeting them where they're at, and that's a difficult work. Where am I asking for more? Absolutely. Am I asking for to work harder, to invest more resources? Absolutely. Because if we're acknowledging that the workforce is where we're feeling, you know, I was afraid, I'll be honest with each of you. When I read about the program, I got a little worried. I was actually in Boston, and I was afraid that these early colleges could become blue-collar pipelines. I got afraid that it could become something that could distract our community from attaining even the 4 years. But then it goes back to what you just explained. When there's someone in front of you that can help guide you and say, no, 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 these are just opportunities where we can move together for the next step. And I think that's a huge piece that we're missing in our community, where platforms are being shared for us to be able to communicate in the language that our community understands it. And I think, you know, that's something that I think is incredibly important, and it's a challenge that not just in education, everything that we're facing, that we're progressing as a community, especially the Latinos that are in here today, pero todavía nos falta. Y tenemos que trabajar juntos. We have to work together. We have to work together. One more time, we just have to work together. Especially today, I read this morning, talk about the mode of our demographic is 11 years old. I mean, if we don't do it, who's going to do it for us?
And just to follow up on that, non-Latinos are 55. We're 11.
And it's not a crisis.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. And let's embrace that opportunity. Let's be proud of it. Let's be honest and truthful to where we're at. I was able to get a higher education because of affirmative action. I did not have a high ACT score, but I did very well. And it's not my job to tell you that I work hard. Everybody works hard in their own way. But here's the last thing I'll say to my comment. I am successful based on the failure of my community. And that's not right. We need to do more.
Thank you for that. We will wrap it up there. I want to thank our panel. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. It's important. And thank you for representing the amazing work that all of you do. And thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.